Hello and welcome. I'm your host, author Ryan M. Oliver, and this is the Mighty Books Podcast. This episode's featured author is Autumn Shields. Don't ask yourself what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive and go do it, because the world needs more people to come alive. Howard Thurman. This is what Autumn believes and is here to help others do. Visionary, thought leader, and serves in the personal and professional development field with over 25 years of experience in law enforcement as a victims advocate and a top performer in a social selling company. She has great insight to what can hold people back from living fully alive. She will challenge your thinking, inspire your creativity, and leave you with a new appreciation for the power of the human spirit. She splits her time between Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and San Pedro, Belize when she is not traveling. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Mighty Books Podcast. Today with me, I have Autumn Shields. Autumn, how are you today?
Great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So today we're here talking about your book and your wonderful career. What's your book title?
My book title is called Living Your Life Alive.
And what is that about?
Well, it is a book about really, to me, it's just when if people can feel like unfulfilled, it's usually where people just kind of realize, like, I know I'm living and I'm kind of just maybe on the hamster wheel, or I know there's more in me that's supposed to come out of me. Maybe I just don't know how to get there or what to do about it. And I think that happened to me. This book was actually supposed to be something totally different. I sat down to write a completely different book. And you hear so many authors say that. Like, I sat down to do one thing, and then as you start writing, something else came out. And I just decided I would just let it flow. And so it came out, and it's been a fun experience for not only myself and evolving with this book, but also just watching it just do its thing for other people.
And what was the inspiration behind writing your book?
As I sat down to write, I was actually living in Maui at the time. I just moved to Maui, and I was sitting up on a hillside, and I sat down to write a book, and everything that like really flowed out of me, I was like, oh my gosh, this is not the plan. But it was really about living and learning to listen to life's nudges. And I describe a nudge as something, people describe it in different words, but some people call it a tug or maybe an intuition, but it's more of like there's something in you that you're supposed to do. So, for instance, like we were talking about, like, you have a job or career, or people think, okay, this is my path, but there's something in you it's a different part of you. Maybe it's a talent, maybe it's an idea, maybe it's a business, maybe it's just something that you just can't shut down. To me, it's different than an idea, because I feel like I have a good idea about every 20 seconds and then I never think about it again, right? Like, I'm going to open up a flower shop and then I never think about it again. That's just an idea. Or maybe I was inspired for a whole 10 minutes and realized I am not good at that. But to me, a nudge is something that you just cannot put the lid on. And if you do try to put the lid on, it does not feel good. It'll keep nudging you, nudging you. And for me, I'm really good about saying, like, I'm so sorry, you have the wrong number, or I'm not qualified, or I don't have the resources, or like it's the imposter syndrome. Like, who am I to do something? And it's really hard to put that lid back on. And so the nudge is, this is really about allowing yourself to take that journey of letting it go, just living life to its fullest, and not just like, oh, live your best life, but really following your specific calling, because all of us are uniquely made. I mean, you have completely different skill set and talents than I do, and all of us. And if we can tap into that, what's awesome is that, somebody's waiting for you specifically.
Digging deep, kind of looking down into what keeps kind of popping up into your brain and giving that, breathing life into that, essentially.
Yes. I feel like sometimes you can breathe life into it, but then, once you're out yourself, like, hey, I have an idea, or this is what I think I'm going to do. Then you have people that are naysayers, like, why would you do that? That's silly. Or who are you to be an author or write a book like that? Why would you do that? Or whatever it is. Maybe it's opening a business or starting a relationship or moving somewhere completely different than you're at now, whatever it may be. And so sometimes I feel like that's in people, but it's just hard for people to step into it.
Yeah, a lot of people, I think, when you say something, maybe it's outrageous to them, it's because they would never consider it themselves and they don't think it's possible. But really, I mean, anything is possible when you think about it. You just have to have the courage to say, I'm going to do this. It might hurt a little trying to
Hmm.
figure it out, but I can do it. You call it the nudge. I've heard other authors talk about that with like their story ideas and go like, I have so many ideas. Everything's coming out of me at 50 miles an hour. All the time's like a beehive just attacking me. Like you said, which ideas stick? Which ones come back around? Which ones bug you the most? That's the ones
Yes.
you should listen to. And that's, like you said, that's the nudge. Or I was pronouncing it nudge. That's the nudge. The person's come back and irritating you. That's the one that's gonna you might benefit from the most pursuing. Now, in your book, it talks about waking up to reality. When did you have that moment?
I had that moment, believe it or not. I was at the mall with my friend and I heard her laughing, like belly laughing. And I remember thinking, like, it shocked me. And I thought, oh my gosh, when was the last time I heard myself do that? Because I had a happy face on. I, anybody looking from the outside in would have been like, everything's great. But there was something that I was hiding and or living under, and it was a dark cloud of not being all of me and living in fear. And I thought, that is crazy that that sound is odd. That sound should be a daily sound, right? And I think sometimes we just start living life, and for whatever reason it is, maybe it's just you just do the same thing over and over and you think, okay, tomorrow's going to be better, or you think this is the life I'm supposed to be living. And all of a sudden you forget or you lose yourself or you lose your voice, or maybe you've never even heard your own voice that is supposed to come out. And I remember thinking, this is not okay. Something definitely has to change. But just like you said, that word courage that you used, it's a big deal. That
Yeah.
courage, like, how do you decide to step into that? It's scary. That nudge is scary. And, you see people ignoring it for years, maybe a day, maybe years. And to me, it's heartbreaking to watch because not only, like you said, when those stories keep coming to you, maybe those are the ones you should pay attention to that will serve you the best. But I believe it's even a step more. I believe when you're being nudged, especially as an author story, and you feel like, okay, the story's got to come out for whatever reason. And it doesn't matter what the story is. Maybe it's inspiration, maybe it's entertainment, whatever it is that's supposed to come out. I feel like it's the ripple effect. So maybe I have the courage to do it or step into it. Yes, maybe it benefits me, but I think even more importantly, there's that ripple effect of it impacting, right? That impact for other people's life. And you thought, wow, because I stepped into this, maybe I'm the light for somebody else to step into there. Maybe it's similar or maybe it's completely different, but maybe because I did it, maybe they'll do it. And
Mhm.
that's to me the importance of it.
Yeah. When you show up and you do something, you have that energy, that kind of light in you. You've
Yes.
shed the routine. It's just funny that, a laugh pulled you out of that rut. Why am I not belly laughing cathartically like this? Why is that? But then you start doing things that make you happy or a little scary. You get that kind of nervous energy, that anxious energy. It's a good if you're anxious because it
Yes.
means you want it, right? But then eventually when you start doing things, you might fail a few times. That's okay, but you do it more and you start succeeding and learning, then you kind of have what I guess call like a positive fallout. You know, you
Love that.
people are like, wow, I didn't think he or she did this. That's pretty cool. I've always wanted to kind of do that. And then you start seeing people's little brains open up in the little dark corners and they're like, actually, I've wanted to do the same thing forever. When I came out as an author, I had, oh God, half a dozen people were like, I've thought about writing a book. Do tell. And so we start talking. All of a sudden I had best friends that I didn't even know were just, they were working with me. I'm like, really? You do? And so we start talking, how did you find this out? When it's, and you're absolutely right. That ripple effect is super important. A little decision and a lot of courage to push you forward can mean the difference between someone living in that rut for their entire life or breaking out of the mold and finding some cool stuff to pursue.
Well, I'm sure when you're thinking about writing your books as an author, you're not thinking about other authors. You're thinking about your story and how do I do this and the steps it's going to take and really what it is and who is my audience. So what's nice is it's like a surprise when other people pop up and you're like, oh my gosh, this is the ripple effect and this is fun and this is an awesome thing that I get to do
But
because you had the courage. But think about how many people ignore that. Like to me, you're like, yeah, you have the courage and some steps and you fail. And that word fail, just that you said, like, oh, you're going to fail sometimes.
Mhm.
That is like paralyzing to some people. So, like, what do you think it is that got you over that as far as like failing forward or it's okay to fail? Like, who said it's okay to fail?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a great question. Who said it's okay to fail? I think honestly, if I had to be honest, it's watching the kids when they're growing up. They're trying to walk or they're trying to do anything. I mean, pour milk into a bowl. Get a whole gallon of milk on the table now, and it's gross, and now it's a funny story.
Hmm.
But it's okay to fail. You can have little failures, but I found from just experience, I think really it's a young person thing to be paralyzed by failure, but it can carry with you forever. It's if you're not allowed to fail. If we have this defining this very small image of perfection, and perfection is just it's out of reach for everybody. It's always just a little. You can be great at something, but you're still not perfect at it. I've learned best by failing. I learned
Yes.
so good by failing. I fail so good, but I remember it all the time. And to me, that I carry that failure with me, and I will show people, see how I failed this, but then I did all that, that refinement, and that helped me blaze a trail to become succeed at something. You just got to get comfortable with doing it. It's like anything, at least from my perspective, it's at least just get comfortable with failing.
And
So
it's getting comfortable. It's just doing it once, then doing it again, then doing it again. And I always mess up quotes, but like what Michael Jordan said is that he's not the best. He's just missed the most shots. So, it's a numbers game. Like take the shots, take more shots. And to me, it's just scary to take the shots. And I'm always like, well, how much worse can you be? So somebody asked me, how much worse can you be if you fail at this? And that's a fair question. You shouldn't just like dive off into the deep end and not know what the risk is. But once you really break down the risk, like how much risk is it really?
no,
Usually
yeah,
not as much as you think.
no, we're usually our worst enemies
It's true.
with you build that negativity that's so hard, it's so challenging, and then I kind of equate it to you're doing a speech, standing in front of people. That's usually paralyzing to folks. Oddly enough, I do that for a living, but I used to be absolutely terrified of getting up in front of people. And you get up enough, you go up there. I remember always having that height of the anxiety right before you step off and walk in front of people, and then you start talking and you get it done, and you're like, that really wasn't that bad. Why was I so paralyzed or freaked out about this? And it's just like you said, it's about doing it over and over again until it becomes just another day at work or another day of life, really.
Even
So
the times you mess up. I mean, I've been giving speeches since I was 5 years old. I spoke at my kindergarten graduation and my high school graduation, all the way up. And I've been teaching law enforcement in college and all the way through and teaching and training hundreds of people at a time. And then on stages, thousands. And then I got on stage. And so you think, oh, like I'm doing pretty good. And then I just completely messed up the next one. You know what I'm saying? Like you're going to keep failing. Like it doesn't matter what stage or level you're on. You never arrive. You're just
mhm,
going to have to keep failing forward. And what's the worst thing? People are going to laugh at you. And then it's going to be a laughable moment for a long time. Like,
yeah,
okay, now we can laugh about that. Yeah, that
yeah.
was horrible. All right, on to the next.
Well, and I think it's also having that kind of, self-defecating humor that helps too. You kind of build that tough skin, and
Yes.
eventually you just kind of let it roll off your back. Like, yeah, that was embarrassing. And like you said, you use it as a talking point or a conversation point.
Yes.
This what you should have heard. You should have seen this speech. I stunk so bad. It was so terrible. But yeah, the embracing of fear is super hard. But my thought is if there's an absence of fear while you're pursuing something, that means you don't want it. You don't desire it like you do breathing. Like, I mean, that's how I think
Absolutely.
there was some there's a story, and I don't know the source, but there was apparently someone who said, how do I succeed in life? And so this guy was talking to like an elder. He goes, okay, come here. So he kind of walked in there, waded in water about shoulder deep. He said, okay, I'm going to hold you under the water for a certain amount of time. Okay. So he takes his head and he pushes his head underwater, and he's sitting there and he's trying to hold in, trying to keep his air in. And for the first 5-10 seconds, he's fine. 20 seconds, he's fine. 30 seconds, starts to get a little worried. And now his body's fighting he needs a breath. However many seconds later, finally he pushes up because he just can't stop anymore. He's like, why'd you do that for? This is what I want you to feel like. You need to feel like I want success as much as I want oxygen. Once that guy embraced that feeling of desire for what he wanted, what he was going after, nothing could stand in his way.
It's the basic thing of saying, you're not hungry for it. It's that air. You need air. You need that food. It's like the basic stuff. Like, what would you do to fight for that? And sometimes you think, I'm just going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And you usually don't have the best results because you're just kind of doing it. You're going through the motions versus I will fight for this. And anything that I've done that has succeeded or that has made that impact, I've had a fight for. And I wouldn't have it any other way, because those are the great moments. Those are the moments you think you can't do it and you have to push yourself and you get to see it. To me, it's fun.
Those are the put the fist in the air kind of moments. Yes, I have succeeded. I'm here. I've arrived. And that's what it's all about, is that rush and getting high off of life at that point.
Like, I've been really comfortable over the last few years. What good stories come out of that? Ryan, I've been really comfortable. That's like the end of the story. Like, yeah. I've been in my like lazy boy chair, hanging on the pool, like, yay, versus, oh my gosh, I did not think I could do this. And this is what happened. I cried all the way through it. And, all those things that you have to, I woke up in the middle of the night with a panic attack and thinking, who am I? And how is this going to go? Or what are people going to think? And it's like, those are the stories. That's what makes it worth it.
Yeah, it totally does. And yeah, kind of reflect on becoming an author. Maybe you've had the same experience, but when the book was about to go live and actually be published, the week before, I had definitely having a little more panic-ish moments than I ever had in my life before. And I talked to, I think it was my brother who's dealt with panic attacks. He's like, it sounds like you're having a panic attack, man. I'm like, why? He's like, because you've got this project working on for how long and you never expose it to the public. It's very, very hard to do. Yeah. You got to go through with it. Well, yeah, I'm not going to stop. If it, even if it kills you, I'm going to keep going. You have to embrace that so you can continue living.
That's what I think sometimes authors aren't prepared for. I definitely was not prepared for that. Whatever I've been attached to in my career I've been attached to, rather it's an organization or, my title's attached to something else, rather it's stood behind an organization or a product or whatever it may be. So I was representing or teaching or something like that, just like you do. Like, you're teaching something, but it's attached to something else, even if your name's on it, but you're still attached to it. Being an author, there is nothing you can hide behind. It is your name and the world. And that is just something I was not prepared for. And my best friend called me the day of my book launch, and there was a few 100 people coming, and she said, "Are you prepared?" And I said, "Yeah." Like, what? Like, I don't know. Just get up and do what I normally do. And she's like, "I know, but this is a little bit different." Like, I was like, "No." And I kind of brushed it off. And I got up to speak, which I do all the time. And I just couldn't. And there was super awkward pauses. And I thought I was like, okay. And then you see the front row, like, tilt their head. And then the second row, like, something's wrong with her. Then it made me panic worse. And I was like, why is this so hard? Like, I've been doing this for years. And then I just realized it's me. Like, I am not standing behind anything, a title. I'm not representing, I'm not teaching something. It's me and you, and that's it. And it's a funny story now to like look back on that, because it was so bad, but I just wish I would have been prepped for it. Like, hey, and my best friend tried, she called me and said, "Hey, are you ready?" I was like, "Of course I'm ready." But I just don't think people realize that it is a big deal to put your name on something. To me, you put your name on a paper in school and you turn it in, it's between you and the teacher.
Yeah.
Now to the world, people are going to love it. People are going to say not great things about it, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yes, it absolutely is. Because that's reality. People they don't have the same taste as you, but you're going to have a lot of people who are going to be overwhelmed with how awesome it is. And other people who are
that's
like,
right.
It's okay. But you have to, then that's another thing of the fear aspect, is embracing that. Okay. Yep. This person didn't like it as much as, I really would have hoped, but that's really a small margin when you think about it. So, and it's just trying to convince yourself that you or look at the big numbers, the big picture. The people who really enjoyed it were a lot more than those who didn't, and you just kind of move on with it and just keep
That's
creating
right.
and do awesome things.
And even if someone told me the scales would be the other way, even if somebody told me, look, only 20% of people are going to like this work, I'd still do it
Yeah.
because that's the 20% of people that maybe need it. And I'm okay doing the work for that.
Mhm.
Because once you get over yourself and the ego and your name on the book, you just realize this is supposed to just kind of flow through me and it's supposed to do what it's supposed to do for the people that, need it or
Yeah.
want it or desire it. And so just let it be, let it flow, let it go. And
Yeah.
it is hard when your name's on it, but once you get over it, it's fun. I just wish I was prepped a little bit more for that it is you, but you know what? It's fun. It's fun also to feel the excitement of it. Like when it first comes out and the boxes get delivered and you're opening the book. I remember like running around the house. I was visiting my parents at the time, and my mom was like, "What are you doing?" I was running around like, like your kids do, like running
Yeah.
around the kitchen. And I was like, "Okay, I'm 45 years old, running around a kitchen like this." I never expected that excitement either. So,
Yeah.
there's all of it all bundled up.
It's exhilarating, isn't it? It's
Yes.
exhilarating. Mine was the opposite. It was not, I was not running around. I was kind of sitting there staring at it like, did I do that? Just kind of sitting back in awe. That was the feeling I had. It was pretty,
Yes.
it's so funny when different authors see their book in print for the first time. It's just, it's a heck of a moment, and it never gets old when you think about or print more books or a new series or anything. So are there going to be any second books coming up? Maybe doing second revisions?
Yes. So I have a second revision already out.
Oh, cool.
And then I did an audio book. I did an audio. And then believe it or not, like years later, I did it in Kindle. So the Kindle, believe it or not, just came out. And then I am working on my second book. And again, I sat down, wrote most of it, and it completely pivoted. So this one's taking me a little longer, which is frustrating because I am not a person that can just write anywhere. I don't know what it is about me, but it's the location I'm physically at that is important. So it's like on off where I'm at. So it is coming. It's just slower. And I thought, oh, I've done this before. It'll be, I know how to do this now, but that is not true.
No.
Sometimes it just does its own thing. So,
Yep, I feel you there. It's every single title you work on has its different process because
yes,
it's a different project. It's a different mindset perhaps too.
that's right.
Yeah. So any how far along are you into getting it to the editing stage, I guess?
Well, it was supposed to be in a few months, but it's probably going to be in a few more months. So by the end of the year, it will be there.
Okay, there you go. Positive mindset.
That's right.
Positive
And that is
mindset.
one thing that you brought up before is about, worrying about like, is it right? Is it okay enough to put it out there? And one thing that my publishing coach really helped me with was it is okay to put a D minus into an editor's hands. I'm like, oh no, it's not. Like, I don't know if you know me or I don't know what other authors you work with, but not me. And then you're sitting there and you're revising. I would have never got this book out if he didn't give me permission to make it not perfect, because sometimes people are great writers. Most authors are not necessarily great writers, they're great storytellers. And so if you give yourself the permission to say, hey, I have a message or I have a story inside of me, I'm going to get it out there and let the editor do their job in making it better, like written, right? But
Mhm.
it doesn't have, every word does not have to be perfect. It's the story. Like focus on your creative side, focus on the story, get it out there, and then it can go back and forth, and then you can revise. But just having that partnership with editing is super important in the process. And if you're worried about being perfect.
Yeah, and no one's perfect. That's what we were talking about earlier. Being that chasing that perfection bar is just impossible. So you had Patrick Snow for
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he was also my published coach as well. Very encouraging. He had so many resources too. And someone to encourage you who's been through it before, like Patrick Snow, it does make all the difference. It really does help.
Because then you can really stay focused on what you're good at, right? We can't be good at all of those steps and all the processes, right? Or everyone would be doing it. So I get stuck at like, I have to research this and how do I get a Library of Congress number? And that's not the creative side of me that I want to focus on. And so to me, if you can hit that fast forward button and just know that that's kind of done for you and not worry about it, just let that part go and know it's taken care of. Just like you say, like, know somebody that's really been through it versus somebody that's trying to sell you something, to get you through it. And then enjoy the process, just enjoy the writing and have fun with it and trust it.
So earlier you said you're a speaker. Are you speaking on your book, or you're speaking on other platforms as well?
Yes. So I started when I wrote my book, I just thought it was going to go out and do its thing. And then as I started speaking on it, people asked me to start coaching them and speak on at different places and different things. So it just kind of took off from there. And then I really enjoy it. It's just a message that I believe I can kind of fit into different areas of people's lives. And hopefully it just makes that big splash and helps people follow the nudge in their own life.
Great. And now, are you a coach also?
Yes. So I'm primarily focused on coaching right now. I love my passion is coaching people that just like we were speaking about, like you're right on the edge, something's there and maybe you're living a great life and everything looks good, but something is there that's supposed to come out of you for me to be able to give that person permission and kind of have that light, like, look, come on, I'll guide you, I'll show the light. I can't do the work for you, but
Right.
I will show you, I'll light that path for you at least. And then I love helping people kind of explore that, like what's next for them. And what I find with most of my clients is that it just seems like such a big mountain to go from one place to the other. But as you just take a step, take a step, take a step, it's really not that big. And it happens so much quicker than people think. And that's what's fun for me is to watch that process for them to get to the other side. And then I also love helping businesses. I've always been involved with different businesses and definitely a serial entrepreneur myself. And so I love helping businesses just scale or people fall in love with their business again or create a business that they love. So
Well, you definitely seem like you have the energy to do all of these things and get people excited about finding their best self, and living out their dreams and listening to the nudges.
different for all of us. Like imagine your nudges, how different they are, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it changes from year to year, from project to project, and it can kind of come and go.
Yes.
You're very busy. You're doing coaching, you're speaking, you got your book out, and you're also doing podcast work too.
My podcast is called The Living Alive Show. You can find it on any platform. I usually take the summers off, but I have guests and different thought leaders that not only I believe that are living their life alive, but also are able to help other people live their life alive. And people just with amazing stories from all walks of life that come on and share their journey of what it feels like to actually live alive in all areas of your life. Because I find some people are really good at one area. Like I'm really good at my career, but I go home and I'm not feeling alive or vice versa. So um, I just hope that show inspires people to rather you can put your toe in the water, like what is this all about? The nudge and like living outside of the box and doing something, or just taking diving in, whatever.
Yeah, and I saw in your book here that you actually do have some interviews with people who are sort of living life alive. How many interviews did you have in your book?
I actually interviewed a lot of people. I think I only put maybe 8 in my book, but it was really just kind of, to me, when you're hearing from other thought leaders, it's more of like, I want people to have that moment of like, oh, I get it now, or oh, that aha moment, or you know what, I've never thought about it like that, but that makes sense.
Mhm.
And so I just try to find different people from different walks of life to speak to different people on really what that looks like. Like, what does that look like? Because people say, well, what is that? I don't even understand what that is. And then you start asking the questions. And a lot of times you just have to ask the question. You don't have to answer it. Just ask the question, like, what else is possible?
Yeah, you start asking what if questions. It gets kind of interesting. It's really
It's a little
interesting.
scary. What
Yeah,
if?
yeah. What
What
if I did
fun.
that? What fun would this be? Yeah, right before the ambulance shows up. Whatever. Yeah, oh, I should do this. No, but that's where the excitement comes in and the energy starts off, and then it's finding the person to encourage, people to encourage, the energy and the plan to make happen, and then have that goal, a goal setting. I mean, is that a part of your coaching? Kind of like you talk to them, go, hey, what is exciting for you? And when they finally have that aha moment, that light bulb goes off, you kind of help them develop a plan of action, a goal.
But I also think you have to be realistic. Like sometimes people are really excited about something. And as we start going down that path, we realize they really just want this as a hobby,
Mm.
right? They really want to just enjoy it. And then there's other things people like, they're going to run to that no matter what. Like there is no holding them back. Like I could sit on them and they're going to run to it. So to me, it's just exploring, right? that's all we can do is keep asking questions and exploring, because I wish I could wave a magic wand or like look in the glass ball and be like, this is exactly what's going to happen to you in 3 weeks from now and 3 years from now in business. But to me, it's just the journey of having fun with it and really being true to yourself and following those nudges.
Yeah.
And I think just giving people permission to live outside of the box, because imagine like people just telling you, like, I could look at your life and be like, why are you doing all this, Ryan? Like, just do one thing, or why do you have to do all of this? Why can't you just be one thing? Well, it's okay to be all of you. And that's what I think people have a hard time with, is it's okay to be all of them. And I used to have a financial advisor. I will only tell you half of his story and it's still crazy, but he like works for Edward Jones, but also like does like fire throwing and at night. And before that, he was a monk. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, bring all of you. Like, why not bring all of you out? And he has 4 distinctive careers. And if you knew him in one, you would never know him in the other. And why not? Like, have fun with it. But
Yeah.
I always, my biggest regret in life is trying to make me just one of those things. And to me, living my life alive is really following those nudges, meaning it might divide me up a little bit, but it's not really dividing me. It's just making me bigger
Mhm.
and not forcing myself to stay in that box of who people think I should be. You know, when you're in one box, people tell you don't go to the other box, and you step out of that box, and people don't like going out of that box. And it's their own limitations. And you just have to learn it's okay for you to explore all of them.
Yeah. You brought up the box. People are only looking at one box. What do you think? Where do you think that comes from?
I think a lot of it's programming. I mean, if you think about, depending upon what age group you are and listening to this, is that, people worked really hard at working 30, 40 years at that one career to get that retirement and to help their kids and to set that life up. And that life was very in a box. Then entrepreneurship started happening. People more and more started doing businesses, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, you're going to open a business? That was super risky. Or go out on your own. That was a risk thing. And then as things have evolved, now everybody's doing side gigs, right? Nobody wants to like do the 30, 40 or climb the same exact ladder, stay in the exact same place. And so now I think it's even more confusing, because I think people are like all over the place, like, oh, I want to be 15 things. So now they can't even choose one to start on. But that's another thing for the new generation. But I think that the pressure for, my generation was definitely like, be like everybody else, look like everybody else, wear the same clothes. The pressure on the new generation is be drastically different than everybody. And the pressure, they can't be different enough. And that's a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, it's a good mixture of both. To me, it's just being authentic to yourself. If you are to do that one thing and that's really you, do it and just enjoy it and be the best you. If you're supposed to be doing 5 different things, or in 5 different relationships, or living in 5 different places, like we live right now in 3 different places on earth.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's us, but that's not everybody. But it needs to be true to us when I'm in those places. It needs to be me.
And it's interesting you bring up kind of a generational thing too. I've talked to several folks who are, they're retiring, and it's like, yes, this is exciting. They're so excited. They're retiring, no more work. They've done their job for 30, 40 years. And then they go home and they do nothing. They sit in front of the TV. They start maybe drinking more than they should, or they stop being active. They tell me, I don't know what to do with myself if I retire. If I retire, I'd have all this to do. I think it really is a generational thing.
It's a generational thing. And I also think it was like a lie, like work this 30, 40 years and then you get a reward.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine telling a dog that, your children that, like, do this thing and then you get this reward 30, 40 years later, and then you just get to relax. And I actually saw this interview. It's an old interview or an old speech, but I saw it. And then my husband and I actually pulled him onto the podcast with me on my show about buying the lie, because he works in the summers, but he's at a place where he can kind of take winters off. So you're like, I'm going to take the winter off. I'm going to float in the pool. Look at me. And it literally almost drove him crazy, like trying to live in that place. And it was a speech by John Piper, who's a pastor, that said, you can't buy the lie, because you have a calling on your life, whatever it is. It might be a talent. It might be helping people. It might be speaking words of encouragement. It might be a skill. It might be making something. It might be you're an engineer, whatever it is. You can't buy the lie that you're done. Like, what kind of messaging is that? Like, you get a reward to sit and that's your reward. to like put the lid on you. Like
Yeah.
you have so much value at that time in your life, whether you're 55, 65, 75. Those are the people, especially in our culture in the Western, we're kind of like done with those people.
Yeah.
I just talked to my personal trainer who has been training for 50 years. He's been training people for 50 years and he's the best trainer I've ever had. But he got pushed out of different corporations because of his age. And I'm like, how could you put a lid on this guy? This guy is a wealth of
Right.
knowledge, and to put a lid on us at any age. So I don't care if you're 20 years old and you're listening to this, or you're older, or like you have value to add, you have a calling. And I'm sure there's things inside of you that still need to come out. It might be to just for the neighbor. It might be to the community. It might be to write a book for the first time when you're 70, right?
Mm-hmm.
But don't put a lid on it. Don't buy like, I'm going to do that when I retire.
Yeah.
Do it now, and
Yeah.
don't ever stop being you.
Yep. I've actually found a lot of the authors I have on here are those who are, I'm going to call them retirement authors, but it's a good thing because, you know, they had a lot of, they were just super busy. A lot had a lot of kids. They had
Yes.
multiple jobs, but they always had that in their mind. They'd always tinker with the writing and write a little here, write a little there. And then they finally had time and they focused on getting that done. And it was super cool. Most of the authors I talked to, a lot of the authors I talked to are in their mid 50s all the way up. I've had someone as old as 80 on here
Yes.
talking about their books. And I'm like, this is crazy. This is awesome. But this is the time when, like you said, this is the time to, you have no excuse at this point. Your kids are grown. Your job is it's behind you now, but you have all that wealth of knowledge from your life experience that we should be learning from.
Yes. We should dive into those books.
Yes. Well, I mean,
Yes.
think about the cultures that worshipped their elders. They looked at them. They are the wise ones. I don't know when it happened, but it kind of flipped where the young people took over the wealth of knowledge. It's like, no, you might have access to technology. Maybe that's when it was evolution of technology.
That's what it is. Yeah.
But yes, you can have knowledge, but it's experience I'm interested in. It's experience I'm interested in. And the only people who are going to give you all the experience is older than 17 years old. Or anyway, I digress. Where can people, if they want to hire you as their coach, where can they find you?
If you go to just autumnshields.com, there's a pop-up that says contact me and we can connect. And I always do a 30-minute discovery call, totally complimentary, no obligation, just to see if it's a good fit. But I just like to hear people's story, where they're at, kind of where they're wanting to go. I have a few different coaching programs and packages. I just recently partnered with another coaching program that has enormous amount of resources and courses and free events and other coaches with lots of expertise. So people just get a lot of goodness from that, to where they're saying, look, I'm ready. And I think coaching is just about saying, hey, I have some tools that I've gathered along the way. And it's just like when I hired Patrick as a coach, I've hired so many coaches, from a personal training coach to business coach to book coach, but I feel like coaches are just like the fast forward button. And so if I can hand somebody those tools and it's a great fit, that's what I get excited about. That's my passion.
Go check her out. If you're interested in getting anything done, accomplish some goals that seem out of your reach, sounds like she's the person who's going to kick you into high gear and push that fast forward button. Something to definitely consider. And then where can people buy your books?
So on my website, it's there. I will send a signed copy, or I'm on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Audible. Awesome. And Kindle. Well, thank you, Ryan, for being you and for finding the courage for you to write and get your awesome books out there and do what they've done well, and giving other authors the opportunity and this platform to be able to share.
Yeah. And thank you so much for coming on here, taking time out of your busy schedule and meeting with me as well. I really appreciate it.
Thanks again, Ryan.
All right, guys, I hope you have a great time. Go out and find a copy of her book, read that guy, and have a wonderful day. And as always, stay mighty and keep reading. Are you an author? Do you know someone who is? If so, then message me, Ryan Oliver, at ryanmoliver.com to set up a free appointment to discuss being showcased on the Mighty Books podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to the Mighty Books YouTube channel and share the link to this and more episodes with your friends and family. Thanks for listening. So long for now. Stay mighty and keep reading.